Hello, friends. Today we are having another session on branding. And today's session and topic is at the special request of a very dear friend whom I've known for over 50 years now. And he made two requests. This is one of them, which I'm addressing today. I will take up the other request at a later date. So the topic today is how to coin a brand name. A brand name is very, very important. I'm sure all of us know it, and it's not rocket science. And the question is, how does one actually coin a brand name that is really and truly great? So coining a brand name is very important. It's as important as creating the brand name itself. And a great brand name, trust me, should be memorable. Somebody can remember it easily, should support a larger strategy, because if your brand is going to keep expanding, there is going to be a larger strategy that's coming to play, and that brand name should be able to support the larger strategy. It should be acceptable to your team first, because if your team buys into and loves the brand name, they are going to do everything necessary to make sure that the brand is a success. And more importantly than that also is that it should sink in the minds of the consumer. The consumer should love the name. Okay, so these are the things that are important for a great brand name. So creating a brand name actually is an art. It's not something that just comes out of the blue. It's an art. And one needs to be strategic and have a plan to be successful in the naming initiative. It's a process, okay? We're going to look at the process. Now, if you don't want to go through this, or if you don't think you're creative enough to create a good brand name, there are agencies available. I help that also. There are agencies available which will use their expertise to coin a great brand name, depending on your brand USPs and your product, etc. But you don't really need to. Yes, I'm killing my own business, but you don't really need to. If you use the right approach, you will be successful in creating a great brand name. So that's very important of creating a right approach. And we shall be looking at that approach today. So it begins with having a brainstorming, a naming brainstorming session. Okay, the brainstorm session's core objective is to find a name for your brand. Okay, so how do you do this brainstorming session? So the first thing you need to do is to gather your team together, whether it's the marketing guys, whether it's the creative guys, whether it's the production guys, anybody else who is associated with the brand. Get them all together. Give them all a seat on the table and let them think and express their thoughts freely. So get the whole team together and do a very serious brainstorming and a brain dump. What I mean by a brain dump is that inform everybody to lay down on paper whatever comes to their mind. You will analyze and filter it later. But first, let them just dump everything onto a piece of paper, onto what you will call your preliminary list. And do this clutter-free. Don't carry any baggage. I'm not talking of excess, even the slightest baggage, which is pertaining to naming. Now, what do you mean by that? There are people who think, okay, I'm going to find the great film name and name my brand after it. Or today's buzzword is such and such, and I'm going to create a brand on it. The buzzwords die, but your brand cannot. So don't have any of those baggages when you start this session. Make it clutter-free. Move into fresh, absolutely fresh and unfettered territory. No baggage, no pre-thoughts. Get them all into the room. Tell them you're in a branding session. Tell them to sit down and start thinking of names. Yes, if all of them are not aware, you have to explain what your brand is all about before they can start the naming session. Okay, so do that and let them start just brainstorming and writing every thought that comes to their mind on a piece of paper. The team should use Scrabble and thesaurus exercises. Thesaurus and Scrabble, the two put together, will give you a lot more options on a single thought that come to your mind. So use Scrabble and thesaurus exercises. Try coining exercises. What I mean by coining exercises is don't use an existing word. Try to coin a word that determines, like take my brand, what we are talking of right now, Thought Shots. How did this brand come about? It's personal. These are the two things I love. I love to think and come up with ideas, and I love my shots. Okay, so Thought Shots. But at the same time, what I'm giving you now is like a shot, and it's a thought shot. So that's what I mean by coining words to make a relevant brand name. Okay, so try the coining exercise and list down everything that comes to mind as a first cut. When I started off Thought Shots, I'd come up with so many, and I've used two of them. I use Thought Shots for what we are doing right now. I also have coined Mind Soars, not SORES, SOARS. And that I'm using when I do corporate talks and corporate events. So there are two of them, but both are coined words and both are very, very specific about their task. What is the brand about? Thought Shots gives you thought shots, and Mind Soars makes your mind soar high above. So list down the first cut. Essence of creating a brand name, some of the points that you need to remember when you are doing this brainstorming sessions and which you need to convey to the entire team that has gathered in the room. Create a memorable name. That name should be something that stays in the minds of people. Okay. And because it's the first thing that a customer knows when he's talking about your brand. The first thing that he's going to know is your name. And then probably the second thing he will know is your logo. Okay. So your name is the most important. It's the first thing that your customer knows. And make the name relevant. Thought Shots is relevant. A name has to be relevant to your business. It cannot be just something that you take out of the blue. And make it easy to remember. That's very important because then it says top of the mind recall. Make it intriguing and captivating. Somebody should be fascinated when they hear the name. Let the name convey the brand message. What are your USPs? What is your product? Like I have another collection, or rather it's a small brand called Hamesha Hatke. Okay, what it really is a collection of product you will not find in any shop. It is different. It's unique. It's always unique. Hamesha Hatke. Okay, so let the name convey the brand message about your product or your USPs. And very important, I know a lot of instances where people have failed to do this and suffered. Make sure of what the meaning of your brand name is in the local language of your targeted markets. You cannot have something that means something very, very bad or very, very down market in one of your target markets in the local language. So due diligence is required for all the markets that you use. Okay, so these are some of the things to remember when you create a guide. Now, what kind of brand names can you create? There are many ways, there are many methodologies that one can follow. One of the methodologies is this and that. Okay, like it can be the product or the owners. So if I give you an example of the owners, say Shantanu and Nikhil. Okay, there are two designers and probably heard of them, or two products, Crate and Barrel. So this is that this and that, or him and me, whatever way you want to look at it, this is one of the methods. The second method is human names. Okay, in all probability is the name of the designer or the creator of the brand. Say Sabyasachi. Who doesn't know about him? Do you know him as a person and you know him, the brand? So as soon as you say, I bought a Sabyasachi, well, we know you didn't buy the man, you bought his product, but his brand is synonymous. Or Tommy Hilfiger, to give you another example. So human names is something you can use. Then compound names. That's two things get together, but which denote your product or your business. As I just talked of, Hamesha Hatke. Another example of this is Netflix. Flix was a slang for movies. Netflix, you see movies on the net. Or Snapchat, quick chat. At the snap of a finger, you can have a chat. So Snapchat, there are compound names. Then there are visual names, okay, where the logo or the name itself tells you what it is, the brand. It may not tell you about the product. Like take Apple. Okay, the minute you say Apple, you envisage the apple with a bite off. Okay, and or take Red Bull. Red Bull, the minute you hear of Red Bull, you know. Once the brand gets established, it is always associated with products. Red Bull is associated with an energy drink. Apple is associated with different innovative electronic products. So visual names is another way of going about it. Or negative words which are made positive by your branding efforts. So say Slack. We all know of Slack. Now, if I use Slack in normal English, it's not a good one. It's a negative word. It's in the sense that people or that person is not doing what he's supposed to do. But the brand has made it into a positive. Or to give you another example, drift. Okay, you're a drifter, not a good sign. But drift as a brand is well recognized. Or misspelled words like lift, L-Y-F-T, means lift when you're asking for a lift. People give you a lift, but as a brand, they have misspelled it purposely to stand out. And it is also indicating the business they are in. Okay. Or whose brand is it? I think Virat Kohli's. Wrong. He's misspelled it on purpose. Okay. Wrong is written the wrong way. So these are different strategies, different kinds of methodologies you can use to create your brand name. Why is a brand name important? And this is a survey I came across very recently. It guides over 77% of the people who think or know about the brand to a purchase. 84% of the respondents said that those brand names which are memorable are always top of the mind recall. So when they think about that product, that brand name comes to mind. And venture capitalists and investors, 82, a massive 82% of them said that they consider name recognition as a very important factor when evaluating any venture capital project that comes their way. Any funding project that comes their way, the investors, 82% of them consider name recognition as very. Also, the brand is important because it tells the customer about your business and or your product. Okay, if it tells business and product, nothing like it, but it should definitely tell them a little bit about your business or product, and it should be creating a buzz. Of course, to create the buzz, you need to invest in marketing. And I'm not talking of that. I'm talking of the name. The name should be buzzable. Let's call it that. So it has to create a buzz. Now, at the same time, while we are saying great names, what they are, what is a not so great name? A not so great name is forgettable. People don't try to remember it. Okay, so forget about it, unless you've done lots of marketing or it's been established for a very long time. It lets competitors with better brand names go by you. They will overtake you. They will get better sales because all the good things we talked about, the consumer wanting to buy and the investor investing, all of that is there in that brand name. And therefore, the consumer, when he talks or thinks of that product, thinks of that brand and not yours. So not so great name is the thing. And to stay away from not so great names, stay away from certain traits. Don't use a foreign language. It's difficult to communicate globally. unless you are going to be a locally based brand. Then that's fine. But in today's world, I don't think anybody who wants to shop or sell is restricted by geographies. So using foreign language is not the best way. And avoid words that are difficult to articulate. Keep them easy. Let's not get into words that are difficult to articulate, because then most of the people who are talking about your brand unknowingly are going to say it the wrong way and destroy your brand. So don't use words that are difficult to articulate. And don't use brand names that limit your future scope. To give you an example, a lady starts making cookies, and because normally grandmas make cookies for children, she decides to name her brand Grandma Cookies. Now, as she progresses, as she grows, as she desires to expand, she wants to introduce other things, maybe cakes, maybe even waffles. Okay. Now, Grandma Cookies, cakes, or waffles may not go hand in hand. Okay. So instead of naming Grandma Cookies, if she had named it Grandma's Kitchen, anything and everything under the sun that is made in a kitchen that can be cooked would have been a great part of the brand. So don't limit your future growth by having that or not so great name, and avoid using generic names. If you're using generic names like Lyft, use the misspelled, use something so that it becomes unique. Okay. If that person had called it LIFT, would it have meant? Now with LYFT, you go on Google, tap LYFT, and he's the only and probably the only thing and the first thing that comes on your screen. So don't use generic names. Now, what are some of the steps that you need to follow to create a great? First and foremost is you need to envision your business and your value proposition, because your brand should be able to denote some of those things, to communicate some of those things. So what is your brand story? Okay, like in Hamesha Hatke, my brand story is that every product is unique. So what is your brand story? What is the mission? There must be a mission to the brand you are creating. Define it. Define all these things, communicate it to the team that gathers for your naming session, and then you will see great results. Develop your brand imagination. As I said, Grandma Cookies. But if in the initial stage itself, you imagine that you are going to do many more things which go beyond just the cookies, you would have probably thought of naming it Grandma Kitchen. So develop your brand imagination. Create, while brainstorming, make sure that you create unique, catchy, and creative names. So that's why you make the first cut and then start eliminating, start filtering them based on all these criteria that we are talking of. And prepare the list, of course, the first cut. Define your brand identity. That is very important. Is it a playful brand? Then the name should be such. Is it a historic brand? Is it warm and inviting? All these are identities by which you will shortlist from all the brain dump that you've got. Is it modern? Is it intriguing? Is it functional? Or based on some product theme? So you need to define your brand identity during or before the naming process and validate the ideas that you are shortlisting. Because today's world, if your URL is not available, so check that the domain name is available. Check that the trademark that you are creating is available. Okay, if it's not, then think twice about naming something like this. Okay, so check that. Make sure that the sound, pronunciation, and visual appeal is right, is the desirable kind. Get audience feedback. Your audience at the end of the day must like your name, otherwise they are not going to buy your product. So get audience feedback. And most important and the last important thing I'm telling you is, if you can make your brand name such that it can become a verb, nothing like it. Because then you will move on to becoming much more than just a brand for a particular product. So capable of becoming a verb. So these are some of the thoughts. My friend, I hope this has helped you. If you have still more questions, do let me know. As I have been thinking, and actually a very dear friend, another dear friend, had made some suggestions on improving my presentation. So what I am planning on doing is that I'm not sure whether I'm going to stop the videos or not, but all of these chats will be put up as podcasts. All these episodes will now be restricted to between 15 and 20 minutes at the most. And they will all be available as podcasts. So it's easier for you to listen when you're walking, talking, traveling, whatever you're doing, you can easily listen to them. So they'll be put up as podcasts. And so that you can schedule your time and you can put up reminders if you so wish. I'd be flattered if you do that. If you put up reminders to remind you to listen to my episodes, the episode will be uploaded on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evenings at 6 p.m. between 5 and 6 p.m. Let's put it like that. Between 5 and 6 p.m. on every Monday, Indian Standard Time, on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Also, another change through a lot of suggestions that have come my way that I'm going to make is that I right now do say branding on once a week. I do personal development once a week. I do something else the third day of the week. What people have suggested is that they need to recap because it's a week's period. So if I can just take up branding, take up any topic of branding and finish it, the 2 or 3 sessions or 4 sessions that are required in sequence, and then move to another category. I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm not promising that yet. But what I told you earlier, I'm going to do it. And I hope to start from next week itself. So think about it, even upon this. If you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, please do let me know. I would like to thank my friend for the suggestions that she has given me and which I am going to implement from next week. And you guys have a great day. Enjoy this talk. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you and bye-bye.